And welcome to another episode of the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast on Stables Media for December 8th, 2021. I'm Taylor Phillips, along with Ed Smith and Frank Vasner. My opening statement, the Lions finally win a game, but they still just barely hold the first overall pick. And the Michigan Wolverines are finally the Big Ten champions, but both occurring on a very grave occurrence from a week ago. Ed, what is your opening statement?
My opening statement to touch on and piggyback off what you just mentioned, Taylor. Yes, first and foremost, all thoughts, all condolences, all prayers, all well wishes to the community of Oxford for the senseless tragedy that happened. And to think that the follow-up, what we saw in the immediate aftermath of not just communities from the college game, but also the pros in our state, I call it what you will, some type of unseen occurrence or miracle, but the performance that Michigan put on, combined with the heroics of what the Lions did, it seems so Hollywood. But after everything that transpired the week before, it was well needed in the biggest way possible.
It sure was. Frank, I know you got some settings linked to technical difficulties, but we can still hear you. What's your opening statement?
Well, my opening statement relates to Michigan football, and they finally got a monkey off their back by winning the Big Ten, and it puts another narrative about Jim Harbaugh to bed. And now it's going to be put up or shut up time when they face Georgia on New Year's Eve in Miami.
In the Orange Bowl, and that is in the Orange Bowl. So before we begin our show, the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast is sponsored by the Vig It Sports mobile app, where great fans cover. Use the hashtag #GreatFansCover to support the app. Use the referral code STABLES when you sign up. Available in the Apple App Store and Google Play. Download it right now. Also, a shout out to Cali Tickets. Visit CaliTickets.com or call 877-225-8425 to purchase a ticket to attend one of their featured events. That's CaliTickets.com or 877-225-8425. Don't delay. So, first off, we recap the Michigan Wolverines cruising over the Iowa Hawkeyes 42-3. Number 2 steamrolls number 13 in the Big Ten football championship game, and the Wolverines enter the college football playoff for the first time in school history, technically the college football playoff, as a result. So, Blake Corum with a long 67-yard touchdown run to open the scoring. Man, that set the tone. And then a reverse from McNamara to Donovan Edwards to Roman Wilson. Cade McNamara was doing his thing. And then the rest of the way, Iowa only settled for a field goal. They tried to come back in the second half, but not only did the Wolverines defense prove too much, but the Hawkeyes made some mental mistakes in the process. The Wolverines were just manhandling the Hawkeyes on both sides of the ball the entire game. And it was no contest. It was almost an easy game for the Michigan Wolverines. But they still had to keep their foot on the accelerator and play 60 minutes like they did against Ohio State, and they did. And they were rewarded with a 42-3 victory. Ed, we'll start with you, and then we'll go to Frank. Ed, really, can't ask for anything better than this.
No, you could not. And Taylor, you mentioned one part of how Michigan was able to dominate on both sides on the ball against Iowa. It just seems to manhandle, made everything bend to their will. Essentially, what you're describing is this would have been what the game against Ohio State would have looked like if Ohio State didn't have the explosive and incredible athletes that they have on the offensive side of the football, because this was essentially the same thing we saw, only with a few or more or less minor adjustments. But beyond all that, let's get to the fact that Michigan found ways to implement the running game, but without being so predictable. They saw that Iowa was trying to stone them up front. So what did they do? Go around the edge, use their speedsters, use Blake Corum, use Donovan Edwards, and you saw how it paid dividends. And when you started to threaten with the edge, that's how you burned them with the trick play. And speaking of that trick play, Josh Gaddis, with his play calling, with what he has done, the adjustments he has made throughout the latter part of this season, able to utilize the offensive weapons that he has and has cultivated and is able to develop as a result, is quite outstanding. It is a reason he has earned and deserved the award, the Broyles Award, for the top, I believe, coaching assistant in the country. He has more than earned and deserved that for a reason. You saw that pay dividends. What we saw against Ohio State, what we saw, against Penn State, what we saw, of course, against Iowa, and other instances, it all came to fruition. And despite the fact that Michigan overcame a slow start of their own, you got to acknowledge that. The fact that Iowa had a chance to gain some early momentum. Michigan had a 3-and-out. Iowa took the ball, drove it right back down, had a chance to take an early lead. But then, all of a sudden, they missed a field goal, and that was essentially their lone chance momentum gone. And from that point on, the defense took over. They asserted themselves. They did what they had to do. Aiden Hutchinson showed why he deserved defensive MVP, although you could argue you could give that award to the whole entire defense because they were just simply outstanding from the front seven to their secondary. I think I've seen some improvements that were quite noteworthy between what we saw against Michigan State, for example, and what we saw against Iowa. They're quite noticeable. And the fact that you've seen as a result of the hard work and the effort and the production and just the representation of what Aiden Hutchinson means to that defense and to that team overall, to me, it may sound biased or whatever, but he more than deserves that nod to go to New York to be a Heisman finalist. Is he going to win it? I doubt it. I would say more than likely it's going to be Bryce Young. I think if CJ Stroud had not been dominated the way he had against Michigan, there's a good chance he could have won it. But you can't argue the numbers. You can't argue the stats. You can't argue also what Bryce Young was able to do against the number one team in the nation in that defense. So I would not be pressed to see Bryce Young win the Heisman Trophy, be awarded the Heisman. But, it'll be interesting to see where Aiden Hutchinson comes in because what he's been able to generate and develop in terms of profile, stock, hype, attention, whether you say it's media assisted, whatever the case may be. It may be a combination of all that, but it's been to his benefit and it's been to Michigan's benefit. And I dare say it could very well be to the Lions' development benefit because now you're starting to see some buzz generate. You're seeing it on social media. You may start to see it. You're starting to see it now spread to local media. The possibility that just maybe Aiden Hutchinson to the Lions at number one, or at least within the top 2 or 3 of the NFL draft next year, could very well be a distinct possibility. And you see that how he performs, how he plays, his motor, his characteristics, his instincts. It screams, yeah, this is a Dan Campbell guy. But besides the point, that whole entire defense, multiple guys, Josh Rosh, David Ojabo, my goodness, he should be a first-round draft pick himself. Daxton Hill has more than proved himself to be a second-round, day 2 type of guy that should be taken the way he's played this year. So that whole team, from top to bottom, has been developed. And I noticed before, I mentioned with Josh Gaddis, but, he's not the only coach that got things together. Okay, Mike Hart. Oh my goodness, whatever raise or bonus that he's getting or extension he's getting, it's not enough because what he has done is turned the Michigan rushing attack into one of the most, predictable, but yet the most effective offensive methods in the whole country. When you see the running backs that we have to throw at you at any given point, Corum, Haskins, Edwards, and the fact that this was after Charbonnet decided to leave and transfer. Think about that. So the fact that we're still able to churn this out, this type of production, now granted, it helps when you have offensive linemen that can move and protect and block for you. Yes, but it takes 2 to tango. When you have backs that are good enough, patient enough to see the holes, good vision, good footwork, just good capability to either have great speed around the edge or that power north-south ability to pound it through, it's fantastic. And when you have Mike Hart, a guy himself who knows a thing or two about being an efficient running back, coaching that up for you, an effective combination. And it all stems from the fact that brought in like that. Mike McDonald being brought in from the Ravens. It's all due to the fact that Jim Harbaugh took a bet on himself. Okay, he said, okay, cut my salary. Let's get some high-quality guys, improve our staff, and to improve the weaknesses that we need, the sore spots that we needed, and let's take a bet on ourselves. Let's take a risk, because last year was awful. It is year 7. It has been time for put up or shut up, and let's do what we got to do. He meant what he said when he said we're going to beat Ohio State or die trying. There was a reason behind that. There was a reason why Cade McNamara was saying this team is different this year. There was a reason why this team was feeling themselves week after week after week. Maybe we didn't notice it. Maybe we didn't want to see it or believe it, but it was there. And we see the reason why now. Some type of will, resolve, whatever you want to call it. It all boiled and piled in together. And also it does help that when you have some benefit, like, say, Michigan State loses to Purdue, hi, Sparty, thanks. You take advantage of the gifts that's given to you. And they did that. They beat Ohio State. They didn't fumble the ball the next week and choke in the Big Ten title game. No, they dominated Iowa, dominated them. And that's the momentum that you want to give, present to the community and say, hey, we are not only one of the legit best 4 teams in America, we have a shot to win it all. And when you combine that all, the fact that, hey, granted, you probably would have preferred, say, Cincinnati as your first opponent. But the fact that you're getting Georgia first, seeing what Alabama just did to them, makes me think that whoever has Alabama as a 7, 8, 9-point favorite, whatever, yeah, I'll take those chances. I'll take those odds. I'll take those points. I will like Michigan and that money in that scenario for sure.
Yes. Take all, give nothing, and never apologize. Frank, got to be impressed.
Well, the first thing I'm very impressed with is the fact that there was no hangover from that win over Ohio State. I mean, I honestly thought that there was going to be kind of slow coming out at first, but, Michigan just came out and opened up a can on Iowa. And, to Josh Gass's credit, he definitely showed why he won the Broyles Award for top assistant coach. I mean, down up that halfback pass from Donovan Edwards to Roman Wilson, which, by the way, Ed, I think Donovan Edwards could possibly play quarterback if life or death situation arose.
Listen, if the cream rises to the top, as the late great Macho Man Randy Savage used to say, Donovan Edwards might very well be a Heisman candidate before he leaves this school. Just saying. Just saying.
Well, he's got a lot of football left to be playing, but still, I thought that play call was definitely kind of bold and brazen.
Absolutely. It was a great example of of how valuable Gaddis has been to this team. In all seriousness, how valuable he has been overall this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, and then the other thing too, I mean, Aiden Hutchinson. There's kind of 2 thoughts on my end about this. I mean, the first is, yes, I think he's definitely going to be playing on Sunday, and I want him to be a Detroit Lion. As for the whole thing about him being a Heisman finalist, I guess the sticking point for me is some of that kind of media-driven, because you look at his stats, and while I will admit, yeah, great player, I don't see him as generational like a Charles Woodson or other defensive linemen who have been finalists, like Ndamukong Suh or Chase Young. I mean, that's not to say that I have a problem with Hutchinson personally. It's just the fact that I don't think he's at the same table as those guys. I mean, Ed, what do you think about that?
I mean, I have heard comparisons of him to, say, either JJ or TJ Watt. I can see the reasons why. Like I said, I love how he comes around the edge. He's got the ability to just bulldoze right through you. He's perfect for what you want in an edge rusher. And how how he's been able to develop the Michigan system has been outstanding. To the point where, yeah, you could definitely stick him on an NFL ready defense, and he's going to be able to perform. Maybe not instantly, but the results will come absolutely in due time. Generational, I probably tend to agree with you. I would say, and I would definitely agree. Listen, this is a Michigan man saying, but I can absolutely notice and pay attention to what's going on. The media has, whether they want to admit it or not, or like it or not, even though they want to talk and make jokes and haha and kiki at Michigan's expense over the past decade or so, They've been waiting for this. They've been waiting to see Michigan football back in the spotlight. So they're going to milk this cow for every single udder it has. You're talking about, oh, look at this. You want to talk potential Heisman candidate? Here, we'll give it to you. You want to talk about, hey, let's match up this team with this team and that team with that team to potentially see a Harbaugh versus Saban matchup in the finals, we'll give it to you. So, and you know that the fan base is going to travel, whether it's going to be to Dallas or Miami, period. But you know that the fan base is willing to travel. The brand that the Block M represents, not just locally, but also nationally. You can argue internationally as well, but that's besides the point. All these factors, we saw, my God, how many people watched Michigan versus Ohio State? About 40 million people, right? You mean to tell me a fraction of that isn't going to help tune in to whatever ESPN is going to put on New Year's Eve and potential beyond that, which, by the way, the national championship game is going to be back at Indy. So consider that also. If somehow, some way, Michigan beats Georgia and gets back to Indianapolis for the national championship game, you could almost argue that could become a de facto home game for the Wolverines because what? It's not that too far for their fan base to just take a hop, skip, and a jump and a few buses, come on down to Indy and cheer on their Wolverines. Now, I don't know. Now, I get it. Say, for example, hypothetically speaking, Alabama, they got folks, they're going to be willing to travel. But I'm just saying, that dynamic and that field, that site, it'll be interesting to see what happens. It's an anything can happen scenario, just like what we see here with Michigan and Georgia. You know, I understand why Georgia is seen as a early favorite because how they've been for the entire season, literally until they played against Georgia. But seeing how Alabama played against them and knowing how Alabama came against them compared to other opponents that they have faced on their schedule, you know, some will say and argue that before Alabama, the best team that they played was a 9-3 Kentucky team. And we saw Alabama was able to come at them with their pass rush. Who's to say Michigan can't do the same with Hutchinson and Ojabo or whoever? Okay. Alabama's secondary may be more suspect than we realize. Now, I get it. Passing the ball is not Michigan's preferred method. It's not their primary method of attack. But if it comes down to it, that Georgia is going to be so committed to stopping the run at all costs, you're going to have to take it upon yourself that, hey, let's call some plays. Let's attack their secondary, whether it be mixing it up, screen plays, short passes, whatever it is, or going over the top and attacking them the way Alabama did. Granted, we may not have the receiving core that's as talented, like, say, as a Jameson Williams, you know, or the other player that they had, whose name escapes me, the kid who got injured, he hurt his ACL.
John Mechie.
Mechie, yes, thank you. But Mechie, but, you know, they're still pretty good, but I would still test them. I would still take a chance against that secondary. And knowing the fact that what our defense can do in terms of getting to the quarterback, I would say this is a winnable game for Michigan. And if Michigan were able to pull this off, hey, I would say all bets are off if they're in the national championship game, presumably against Alabama. But hey, we've seen crazier things. They could very well be playing Cincinnati, but first things first, they got to get past Georgia. And I believe they have what it takes to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they do.
Well,
so it's going to be a close one.
I agree with Ed to a point. I think Michigan has a shot to beat Georgia. I mean, right here, right now, I don't think they can do it because I think Georgia's got way too much on their defense, especially on their defensive line. Jordan Davis, that big nose tackle they have. And plus, I think they got some weapons on offense that can give Michigan's defense problems as well. And you look at what Alabama did, and Alabama, truthfully, I think is on a different planet. But this time of the year, you play who you play. Anything can happen.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, it may come down to what a fluke play here or there, what happens on special teams. Hey, good thing we got Jay Harbaugh on that, right? It could come down to that, or whatever the case may be. But I just think when you compare matchups, compare what adjustments that could be made over the course of the game, what schemes, what X factors, knowing that the assistant coaches we have on our side of things, I think we could see something. In fact, right, and you're giving us a month, essentially, to prepare and get ready for what we're going to be seeing, what we'll be dealing with, and how to counteract and counterpunch that. like I say, I like our chances against Georgia. Beyond that, hey, we'll see what happens. I listen. I've been experiencing this whole thing so far as a massive ride. I'm ready for whatever it's going to take me after this. But as for here and now against Georgia, yeah, if you ask me, I believe they more than have a shot to do some damage against them.
Yeah, and
Well,
we're going to
Ed,
get
here's
to
another little tip. Well, I've actually got another little tidbit for you, Ed. You do know that Josh Gaddis was on Alabama's staff when they beat
Oh, of
Georgia in the national
course.
championship a few years
Of
ago.
we remember.
course. Absolutely. You don't think he's got a trick or two up his sleeve from his days in Tuscaloosa? Please. He
I
knows
could buy
that
that for
defense in and out.
Right.
And speaking of knowing things in and out, who's to say if they get to the national championship game and if they are facing Bama, who's to say we may have some previous inside knowledge of our own? Now I get it. Maybe Saban has changed up a thing or two since Gaddis has left, but one helped. One helped at least try to gauge what could be seen. Sort of like maybe not exactly John Gruden against the Raiders in the Super Bowl, but something similar to that effect.
Mm-hmm. And let's get to the Michigan Georgia Orange Bowl game on Friday, December 31st at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN. Georgia is favored by 7.5 according to ESPN, although Michigan's ranked 2 and Georgia is ranked 3. It's a close one. Michigan has a shot, so does Georgia. This could go either way, to be honest with you. One of you guys has Michigan favoring Michigan has Michigan winning it. The other has Georgia. Man, for me, I'm undecided. It's going to be a really, really interesting matchup. And Frank kind of analyzed the Georgia offense giving Michigan that could give Michigan's defense some problems, but it's going to be a tough task. Therefore, but we're going to go to Ed first, and then we're going to go to Frank with the early preview with the Viget analysis and scoring prediction. Ed, I know it's a bit early, but we got to get this over with.
We basically essentially already, when you think about it, we already just gave the analysis. So all essentially is what's needed is our scoring prediction. So if you were to ask me, given what we know now, given what we saw and what we've broken down, what could and can happen between now and then, I would say, hey, I'm calling my shot. I will say Michigan 27-24. They're going to get a turn. Their defense is going to cause enough pressure, enough havoc, to be able to force a turnover, maybe 2. Something's going to happen that's going to benefit them on special teams. They're going to be able to come through on needed plays in offense. And I think it's going to come down to what Jake Moody kicking a couple field goals, maybe one as time expires, hint, hint, to win the game for us and send us to Indianapolis, back to Indy, for a chance to win the freaking national championship. Could you believe it?
Mm-hmm. They'll have to go through either Alabama or Cincinnati if Michigan makes it. So Ed says 27-24. Frank, what's your scoring prediction? You already gave your analysis.
Well, the one thing I will guarantee is whatever the over-under is, I would definitely bet the under because these are two very stout defenses. I think right now I kind of see Georgia winning, say, probably a 20-13, 2017 game. I'm just not sure if Michigan can get their playmakers in space against Georgia's defense, especially running the football against that defensive line. And also, Georgia's got some weapons on offense that I think can cause problems as well, notably their tight ends. I believe Brock Bowers, if I'm getting his name correct, is one guy who I've been impressed with. And plus, they've got a couple good running backs, too, that are good out of the backfield. And Stetson Bennett, I think, is a really good quarterback as well. Also, I think it'll be one of those tight defensive games, but I think Georgia's just going to get a stop when they need to. And I'll say 20-17 now, but obviously that could change between now and New Year's Eve.
All right, 2017, Georgia, says Frank. Man, it's both pick a winner by 3 points. One for Michigan, one to Georgia. I'm going to have to arrange this one as best I can. I'm going to go to overtime, tied at 20, and then Michigan 26, Georgia 23. So that's my Viget scoring prediction in overtime. Michigan
Kinda
26, Georgia
That's kind of
23.
like how Georgia lost to Alabama in the national championship a few years ago.
Oh, that's a good memory.
It was a
touchdown.
Tua Tagovailoa throwing to Devontae
Oh
Smith.
my goodness.
On
Yes.
2nd and 26.
Imagine,
That was a thriller.
Imagine a JJ or Cade bomb for a walk-off. Oh, God.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So that's Michigan football. Now, Michigan State, the Spartans. They'll take on the Pitt Panthers in the Chick-Fil-A Peach Bowl on Thursday, December 30th at 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. And we'll start with you, and then we'll go to Frank with the Viget analysis and scoring prediction with the early preview. Ed, you're up first.
Well, I think in terms of looking at the early preview of this, Frank, if you have the number on me, what is the line? What's their line? If Pitt is a favorite, or whoever is the favorite, how much is the line?
I haven't looked, but I do know that Pitt's offensive coordinator Mark Whipple has left the team to go take a job at Nebraska.
Right.
And apparently there's some chatter that Kenny Pickett, their quarterback, may not play in this game.
Exactly.
Nothing confirmed yet. It's just basically chatter and stuff.
Right. And those are two things I was actually gonna bring up to talk about specifically. That
the line is even.
Yeah. Oh, and there you go. That explains why that recent news, because I remember after the news that came out of Whipple's resignation, and then it turns out he's going to go to Nebraska. Pickett said either, I believe it was earlier today, to someone either on the Dan Patrick show, that he's uncertain about his status in the Peach Bowl. Remember, this is a Heisman finalist, not a candidate, a finalist. 40-plus touchdowns, single-digit interceptions, seen by some as a potential first QB taken off the board in this upcoming NFL draft. And he's not going to play in a New Year's Six bowl game, especially against a Michigan State that, frankly, to be honest, has a less than guarded secondary, to be generously speaking. So the fact that he may or may not play, on top of the fact that their offensive coordinator that was behind that offense that helped generated Pickett as that Heisman finalist, he's gone. I mean, granted, we have backup and assistant coaches and interim coaches that know that playbook in and out, but I think it will be a noticeable difference of not seeing the quarterback out there compared to whether or not a coach is there or not, because you still got the playbook, but if your quarterback's not there, that may change things up. So assuming Pickett plays, I would say Pitt does enough to get the victory by a score of 33-26. But MSU, I think, has a better shot at winning without Pickett playing. So if that were to happen, I would say Michigan State 31, Pitt 17. Actually, no, MSU 31, Pitt 24.
All right, 31-24, MSU, says Ed. Frank, what is your Viget analysis and scoring prediction, considering Kenny Pickett might not play? That's a break for MSU, too.
Well, since Ed did this, I guess I got to do it, too. If Pickett plays, I think that's going to cause some real big problems for Michigan State's pass defense, even though I think Mel Tucker and company are really going to emphasize getting that much better in bowl practices. For what it's worth, Travaris Tillman, their defensive backs coach, has left to take the same position at Georgia Tech. So just want to throw that out there. If he plays, I think it'll be kind of a wild game. And because, Kenneth Walker's probably going to be angry after getting snubbed from being a Heisman finalist. And he'll basically pull a Michael Jordan and say, and I took that personally. Hey, but I think Pitt wins 34-31 if Pickett plays. But if he doesn't, given all this extracurricular drama with Mark Whipple leaving and everything else, I think Michigan State might look to make a statement
and I'll say that the Spartans would win 38-28 if he does not play, because I don't know who Pitt's backup quarterback is or anything about him or what his stats would look like. But given the fact that I can't seem to trust Michigan State's pass defense, he'll probably get some points either way.
Basically,
So 38-28 with no Pickett hit. Michigan State wins 34-31, and Pitt wins if Pickett does play.
Basically, this would have been if what we thought the Lions versus the Packers on New Year's Day 2012 would have been had Matt Flynn not diced up the Lions secondary for 6 touchdowns. So if we see another Matt Flynn here performance out of this game from Pittsburgh's backup, I'll die laughing.
Well, please don't remind me of that one.
Well, if Kenny Pickett plays, I'm going to go Pitt 42 and Michigan State 31. But if Kenny Pickett doesn't play, I'm going to pick Michigan State 35 and Pitt 32. So those are my scoring predictions. Those are my two-face scoring predictions, with Kenny Pickett playing and Kenny Pickett not playing. So that's Michigan State Spartans football. Now the Lions. Oh my God, what a thriller. They beat the Minnesota Vikings 29-27 on a game-winning touchdown pass from Jared Goff to Amon-Ra St. Brown as time expired, as seen on CBS, to get their first win of the season. Jared Goff, as a result, 296 passing yards and 3 touchdown passes. I think it's not just 2, it's 3, including the inner to Amon-Ra St. Brown from 11 yards out. So the Lions were 1 for 3 in fourth down offense efficiency. So also the Vikings a go-ahead touchdown left the Lions with almost 2 minutes left in the game, exactly a minute 50 left. Lions led 20-6 at halftime. And the Lions were 0 for 2 going into that final play in fourth down efficiency offensively. But it's the play calling that kind of was interesting by Dan Campbell and his coaching staff. They call it the same way, except they didn't call back-to-back timeouts like they did against Chicago on Thanksgiving Day. But that game-winning play was not on the coach. It was on the quarterback. Jared Goff threw a strike, found a wide-open Amon-Ra St. Brown. 2 Viking defenders in the secondary left him wide open, and they got to him too late as he made an easy basket catch on that line drive pass from Goff. And he squeezed the hell out of it. And that was that. The Lions finally celebrated on the field and then in the locker room. And everyone went crazy. Everyone in America went crazy on this thing. It's like they were celebrating as if the Lions won the Super Bowl. Guys, it's only the Lions' first win of the game. I know it's a thriller, and it's the first win. They're no longer winless, but I mean, seriously, they still hold that first overall pick in next year's NFL draft. The Lions still have a lot of work to do, especially with the play calling. But Goff and his offense starting to pick up a little bit of momentum from what I've heard after that win. So, Ed, we'll start with you, and then we'll go to Frank. Ed, like I said before, lots to work on, but finally got a win, however they may take it.
Yes, but it was such a weird game to look at, wasn't it not? I mean, the fact that you saw the offense, saw Jared Goff in the first half performing the way he did, throwing the ball not just down the field, but throwing the ball downfield with vigor, like he had a tent, like he had a purpose. You know, it was very surprising in terms of this season so far, uncharacteristic of him to see him look and play that way out there. and it paid off. Granted, unfortunately, though, we saw bad tendencies did show up yet again, sometimes at the worst possible moments. Like, for example, what was it on the interception? He stared down Hawkinson completely, did not change his focus. Meanwhile, he had St. Brown running free across the middle to the flat side on the right side of the field. If he just looks his way, that's an easy pitch and catch, first down, maybe even more, a touchdown. Instead, ugly interception. Thankfully, the defense, the way they've been performing this past few weeks, they stepped up and they was able to contain Goff's mistakes as best as humanly possible. Again, like for example, with the fumble on 4th and 1, uh, I could kind of understand what Dan Campbell was going for because he figures if we punt it back to Minnesota, there's a good chance that they get a couple first downs, they can run down the clock, we won't get the ball back. But I just, I think you still got to find a better play call than that because that was an absolute disaster of a play. The play action didn't fool anyone. Horrible protection, strip sack, fumble. It was just the worst thing that could have possibly happened aside for it being returned for a touchdown. And basically that's what it was when you saw that it drove down the field and then scored on the ensuing possession. Now, this is where I will say that maybe, just maybe, Mike Zimmer bailed out Dan Campbell because if I'm Mike Zimmer, if I didn't pay attention or saw what happened last week, how do you not ensure that Detroit burns their timeouts and just run the clock down, You know you can get yards on this offense. Just keep getting first downs, force timeouts, milk the clock, kick the field goal, and go home. But first of all, you scored the touchdown to give them enough time to drive the ball downfield. I get it. It's Jared Goff. It's Captain Tiny Hands. But he's still, a veteran NFL quarterback that knows a thing or two about 2-minute drives, of dinking and dunking and check down fiestas. That's his specialty, especially in a 2-minute drill. So doing that gets him in the position to where, hey, it comes down to all of this. 4th down, 4 seconds left. And first of all, you have your defense already in a prevent set. You call timeout, and instead of adjusting or making changes or doing something, you go back out there and you put him back in a prevent defense. Have you not noticed that every single time that you bring pressure on Jared Goff, it turns into, oh my God, what's going to happen to me? Fear for my life situation. So I would say, why not take the risk, take the chance, do that, knowing that's the biggest weakness against the biggest detriment against him, and you live with the result. Instead, you play prevent, you essentially play such soft coverage, you get enough room to the receivers to get underneath you, to get in the end zone to catch for the touchdown. It was quite astounding. If I'm a Minnesota fan witnessing that, I would have said, leave Zimmer in Detroit, you are fired on the spot. But hey, maybe they'll do it at the end of the season. But I'll just say, losing to a winless 10-loss team, giving them their first win of the season, and it's the Lions of all teams.
One tie team, too.
Yeah, exactly. It would give me more than grounds to consider that a fireable offense. So if I'm Mike Zimmer, I'm looking over my shoulder come whatever the first Monday is after the season's over, whenever that is.
Yeah, fire Zimmer. Dan Campbell, like I mentioned before, got bailed out by Zimmer with that touchdown instead of a field goal by not running out the clock and then using that final timeout with 1 second left that Matt Nagy easily could have done either way, that Mike Zimmer could have done, but the Vikings didn't have much yardage to work with. And they had plenty of time to score, in which they did, and they didn't waste too much time. But that left Dan Campbell and his squad $150 left. They had to get out of bounds and spike the ball and whatnot. And on 4th and 2 with 4 seconds left, boom. The volcano has erupted. Explosion.
Yeah.
Lions fans.
Speaking of explosion, how was Dan Miller on that radio call? You could hear the relief in his voice. Above all else, above the excitement, the jubilation, and everything, there was pure, genuine relief, and I felt for him in that moment.
Yeah, and joy as well. The way that game ended, holy cow. I have never seen the Lions score a touchdown to win the game with time expiring on the game clock at home like that.
I mean, we've seen
in my life.
We've seen some frantic, classic frantic finishes, especially in the Stafford era at Ford Field, but that one was quite unique in and of itself. I mean, the winless season, Dan Campbell's first win. By the way, if you noticed the whole how the locker room, how the team has reacted, and essentially has stuck by Campbell week by week by week in the midst of all of this, it lets you know why that reason above all else why he was hired to be the head coach for this team. They can rally around him. They can be motivated to play for him, unlike what they were under Matt Patricia. There's no way they would have been able to run for a wall for Patricia the way they're willing to do that for Campbell here. You see it week in and week out. You saw it on the days where they didn't look so well. You saw it on the days where they looked well enough to win but couldn't get it done. And of course, you saw it on Sunday. On the field, after the game, in the locker room, they love this guy. And I think if you just give him the right enough amount of talent and also find a way to figure out the right proper balance of play calling efficiencies, trusting your coaches more, which I would argue if you get him more better talent, more better weapons on the offensive side of the ball, he won't feel the need to be such to relegate play calling duties to himself. I think he can get that balance back more to Anthony Lynn or whoever will the offense coordinator be after this season. But again, it just shows that the players like this guy. They want to play for him. And I think he can be the right amount of talent. He can be a serviceable coach to this team. I'm not saying immediate playoff contender, but it's going to take time. That's why he brought him a 6-year deal and all that. There's a reason why, but it's just going to take time. But I appreciate the win. I'm happy for him. I'm happy that he gave the game ball to the Oxford community. It was well needed, the same way that Michigan was able to get 42 for number 42. We saw Dan Campbell get the game ball to the Oxford community. It was quite wonderful to see. That was good and all. But guess what? Focus on the tank. You got your one win. That was nice. Don't mess up now. Because what? Houston and Jacksonville, they're right there. Now, granted, one of them is going to take the other out in about a couple of weeks from now when they play against each other. But still, another win or so could make things very interesting and dicey. You don't want that. Well, whether you're taking Kayvon Thibodeau or Aiden Hutchinson as your first overall selection, don't mess up because you got number one staring you right in the eye. Don't blow it.
Yeah. And as long as the Lions keep losing after that win and tanking and finishing their season with just one win, they still are a lock to get that first overall pick. Otherwise, it's just up for grabs. It looks up for grabs firsthand, but we realize the Lions, again, like I just mentioned before, are a lock as of right now if they keep with one win and 14 losses and one tie as of right now. Now, Frank, it is your turn. What did you think of it?
Where do I begin on this one? I think there's definitely two schools of thought here. The first is it's great to see them get the monkey off their back, getting a win. I know, say what you will about the celebration, but you know what? When you've had to endure all this BS of losing and finding new ways to seemingly get kicked in the nuts, you deserve to celebrate a win because you never know when it's going to come again like that, especially
You earned it.
in thrilling fashion. Yeah. The other is, while I'm happy for a win, and I'm happy that Dan Campbell finally got his first win as a head coach, there are some things that I still don't like. That 4th and short play call, what are you doing throwing the ball? You just need to sneak it or run it. You can let Goff sneak it, let DeAndre Swift or whoever get it.
Good point.
I don't mind the
DeAndre
decision
Swift
to
was
go
out.
for it. Oh, my bad. Yeah, sorry. I've been so occupied with work.
Yeah, you had Jamal Williams also available.
Yeah, Jamal Williams. My apologies,
Eva Buque as well.
Yeah. You go ahead and use one of those guys. You don't need to throw it in that situation. Now, granted, he got bailed out by Mike Zimmer, and of course, I think Mike Zimmer should get the whole Vince McMahon treatment and be told, "Screw you, you're fired." By Rick Spielman. I've been waiting to do that. But
No. That was good. That was good. Yeah, the way Vince told Stone Cold Steve Austin back in the '90s. Wow. Yeah.
But also, I think you really gotta say this about Jared Goff. I know we've called him Captain Baby Hands and how he can't win without Sean McVay. I don't know what he did or if he felt some of his old secret sauce from his days in Los Angeles, like Michael Jordan's secret stuff in Space Jam. Maybe that's why he played so well and got NFC Offensive Player of the Week. But you got to tip your cap to him. And even that throw to Amon-Ra St. Brown, how about that for your first career touchdown reception?
No.
Yeah.
That's what you're going to remember forever.
And it proved to be the game winner as time expired, like I mentioned.
Yeah. Hopefully he'll be able to hang on and cherish.
Imagine being that guy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hopefully he'll be able to hang on and cherish that memory for a long, long time.
Oh, he will. He will, regardless of what his future holds.
And also, guys, it's great to get a win because nobody wants to see you go winless. I mean, look, I know I thought that they would this year because I wasn't sure where the win was going to come. But you know what? I'm happy they proved me wrong and that they went out and got the job done. In fact, like Ed mentioned, you're still trying to get that number 1 pick, and hopefully you don't surpass Houston and Jacksonville in the coming weeks, so you can end up with Kayvon Thibodeau or Aiden Hutchinson or whoever is at the top of the board.
Hey, don't count out the Jets, baby.
The butt fumble.
Oh, the New York bozos.
Urinating Tree calls them the butt fumble because they are.
Oh, yes. Speaking of Tree, I can't help but wonder if the Vikings are going to be the lol cow of the week.
They weren't. Not on This Week in Sports Ball. The thing with Antonio Brown, a former Central Michigan Chippewa, with a fake vaccine card.
Yeah,
and Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we saw. Subscribe to Urinating Tree's YouTube channel and watch away.
That would
You'll
definitely
find
be
out for yourself.
That would definitely be seen as locale worthy for sure.
Okay, but anyways, kind of getting back to the task at hand, and I also think that Dan Campbell's gotta find somebody else to call plays because he's not cut out to be a play caller. I've said this on here before, and I'm gonna say it again.
Agreed.
Yeah, you got the win, but that doesn't mean you're a play caller. You're probably not gonna have Anthony Lynn back, so bring in somebody different.
Not gonna have Anthony Lynn back either, or Aaron Glenn.
Well, I'm not really.
I would argue Aaron Glenn. I think Aaron Glenn has more than earned a chance to come back next season because if you notice,
the defensive line they've done well, just not the secondary.
Yeah, but you notice in general, teams aren't running and scoring the ball up and down at will on us as they were earlier in the season. You know, have you noticed that trend, that pattern? I think
it's the NFL nowadays.
Yeah, but still, if you argue, if you had more efficient offense, more effective offense that can move the ball, like for example, Pittsburgh was very winnable. If you have a guy that knows how to make a forward pass, you win that game. So it does also come down to, can your offense help you out in clutch moments? And we saw that time after time throughout the course of the season that they were not able to do that for the Lions. Granted, I know the defense had their own shortcomings as well. 4th and 19 against Baltimore, giving up the lead, the first downs against Minnesota and Chicago on Thanksgiving. I get that. But still, when you have an offense that has abilities to shoot yourself in the foot at the wrong point in time and not cash in on drives when you need them to cash in, it ties your hands in a way if you're that defense.
Oh yeah. True. So let's move on to Lions at Broncos. The Lions play the Denver Broncos Sunday at 4:05 p.m. Eastern Time on Fox. And of course, the Viget analysis and scoring prediction. Ed, we'll start with you as always, and then we'll go to Frank. Ed, what is your Viget analysis and scoring prediction? Thinking it over?
Yeah, just pondering because it's a lot to take in when you consider the fact of how up and down Denver has been themselves this season. 1 week they can look credible, the next week they can look absolutely dreadful. They're a 500 team. They're 6-6 for a reason because they're so inconsistent with how they can perform on such occasions. We just saw them absolutely get handled by Kansas City on Sunday night by a score of 22-9. Who's to say they can't come back out the next week, see our inefficiencies on certain parts of the secondary, make efficient drives, put together some points, know that our offense has limits, take advantage of that, build upon early lead. And while they won't blow us out, it will be at least a convincing victory. And it's, again, like I said, I just need them to maintain focus on getting that number one pick by any means necessary. So granted, yay, you got that win out the way. Now it's time to keep losing. So Denver, my bigger predicted score is going to be Denver 28, Detroit 13. Though I would say the Lions may try to score a garbage time touchdown to make it a one-possession game. My point still stands. Denver should win this one comfortably.
Yeah, and keep in mind, DeAndre Swift is hoping to return prior to this Sunday.
Yeah, but I would say don't risk it, man. You've already lost 10 games. You're not going to the playoffs. Just don't. I understand the wanting, the need to perform, for your own sake and also for development. But it comes a point in the season, I would say, you would start resting guys like how they do in the NBA when the season's almost over. At some point, start resting some guys. Just the season's lost anyway. Serve and preserve them for next year. If it may seem as unpopular, whatever, but yeah, I would do it. I would deeply consider that for sure.
All right. Broncos 28, Lions 13, says Ed. Frank, what is your Viget analysis and scoring prediction for Lions at Broncos?
Well, my main question this one is, will the real Denver Broncos please stand up? Kind of like what Ed alluded to. They've been real inconsistent. They've looked like world beaters some weeks. Other weeks they look like absolute garbage. Of course, one thing to note, Von Miller, who was their best defensive player, he's gone to LA now. And their quarterback play is pretty bad. Teddy Bridgewater, he stinks, but I still think Denver's got enough to get the job done. And then I don't mean to Price is Right you in the scoring prediction, but my Viget scoring prediction, I'll go Denver 27, Lions 14.
All right.
Oh,
I'm going to
cheeky.
Oh, yeah. Going down a little bit low, huh? Well, you're supposed to go like over the score, aren't you, to Price is Right him or outbid him, right?
I think it's going to be – I think he was pretty much right on the nose, so.
All right. Well, I'm going to go Broncos 31 and the Lions, I'll say 10. 31-10 Broncos. That's my Viget scoring prediction. My analysis, the Lions still getting too carried away with their first win. They're going to try to momentum. I would say 31-17 actually, but still the Broncos will win. So 31-17, Lions are going to try to build some momentum with their offense after that win over the Vikings, but the Broncos are just going to prove too much. 31-17 Broncos. That's Lions. Now, college men's basketball, the AP poll rankings, Michigan State is up to 19th, and Michigan was out before last night when they shelled the Nebraska Cornhuskers 102-67. Now, my question is, could that earn Michigan a spot back in the top 25? Ed, we'll start with you, and then we'll go to Frank. It's a possibility, isn't it?
Maybe, but I gotta see more improvement. I gotta see more than that, more than what we just saw in not just
Good
one
point.
game against Nebraska, but also what we saw against San Diego State as well. Now, I could see them getting outside votes, to get from others receiving votes, that type of category. I wouldn't necessarily say for sure they're going to be bona fide in the top 25 unless we see some major shakeups happen. But in terms of what they've been so far and what they need to improve upon, maybe we're starting to see the genesis of that. Hunter Dickinson, I've been waiting to see him wake up for a while. He finally did that against San Diego State, had himself a double-double, 2010 type of game, more forceful, more efficient, especially with his jump shot as well. And speaking of jump shooting, the offense for Michigan finally coming alive in terms of the three-point basket. They had 15 threes against Nebraska. That is something that we've been waiting to see on a more accurate level for quite a while, for more efficient level for quite a while now. So to see it now come together, maybe it just would have been that hurdle that was needed to get over for Michigan's sake. But it's good to see that they can overcome that such a thing. Now, if it's the start of a good run for them, nice. But I want to see a few more games before I could say that they've made that turnaround from what was a very ugly early season start.
Yeah, all being fair in love and war, it's a start, like you just mentioned. Frank, you'd say the same thing, wouldn't you?
I pretty much agree with that. I'm going to have to see a little bit more. I mean, a performance like that against Nebraska where you just couldn't miss from anywhere. Here, I think that's a step in the right direction in your Big Ten opener, but depending how the rest of the conference play goes and even in your out-of-conference games for the rest of December, I'm going to wait and see what happens there before I make a determination on whether they should be ranked or not. I mean, and I don't have the schedule in front of me. Who does Michigan have next?
Oh, Michigan.
Michigan. 1 second.
Yeah, I'm going to try to pull that up too on the ESPN mobile app. Michigan is going to take on Minnesota at home Saturday at 6:30 on FS1 at Chrysler Arena. Then they'll take a week off before playing Saturday at home at 7 on the Big Ten Network against Southern Utah. And then Tuesday the 21st, Purdue, Fort Wayne. Then in Michigan at UCF, Central Florida, Thursday, December 30th at 7 p.m. on ESPN2. The same day, Michigan State football takes on Pitt in the Chick-Fil-A Peach Bowl.
So they're getting spaces and breaks in between before they really ramp up the schedule with the conference games in January.
Yeah, kind of.
I think what helps is the fact that they have a couple of the bottom feeders of the Big Ten, because Nebraska was expected to be at the bottom. Minnesota, who's about to tip off against Michigan State, they're kind of expected to be at the bottom too, because even though they're 7-0, they haven't really played anybody of note. So we'll see what happens, but I think Michigan will finish out the rest of this month unbeaten before the grind of the Big Ten season hits in January.
Yeah. We'll see what happens in January, February. The future is yet to come. So that's college basketball. The Pistons still stuck on 4 wins. Kate Cunningham, however, 28 points in the collapse against the Thunder. They collapsed in the fourth quarter yet again. They've done this like more than a few times of the Pistons.
Yeah.
They gotta start exercising that demon. Do they have the right coach for it, or they don't have the right players, or both?
It comes down to Cade Cunningham's very own word. It's called, we have to stop talking about fixing this and start doing something on the floor. And, for him to say that, at least it shows acknowledgement of the situation and the need to get better and show improvement in that area. But it still comes down to, it may come down to coaching, yes, but it also comes down to your players just knowing the right moments, knowing the right switches, knowing the right matchups, and, your talent, having the right talent for those right matchups. Because right now, the way this team is currently set and constructed, it's not how you want it to be, to where you can have the confidence that you can feel, to where they can have a consistent 4-quarter game against above adequate, if not top tier teams and talent in this league. It's just we're not at that point yet. It's going to take some time, but you'd like to see in the development where some players are coming from, especially in the part of Cade Cunningham, for sure.
Yep.
I definitely agree with you, Ed, that yeah, Cade's got to be a leader, and he's shown that as well, saying, hey, we got to stop talking and actually do it. Give me a guy like that 7 out of 7 days of the week. But also, how long is it going to be before we got to say Dwayne Casey's ass needs to be in the jackpot?
Yeah. I mean, listen, those conversations, I think it's fair to have those probably soon, if not now. If not now, then soon, because I get it. You're still experiencing roster turnover, but this is not like it's his first or even his second season here. At some point you'll want to see more better results on the court, and so far you're not getting it. So I get it. Ed Stefanski and Dwayne Casey, they go back, but at some point, if you're not seeing what you want to see in terms of results being produced, then sometimes it comes down to hard decisions that have to be made.
Yep. And then you got the Red Wings only recording 3 shots on goal in the first period, 5 after 40. That's 2 in the second period, and then 16 shots on goal total as they lost to the Nashville Predators 5-2. Man, just an awful performance.
Yeah, they essentially got bullied in that game. Now I hope it serves
and outcoached.
Yeah, I hope it's a little bit of a wake up call for them. But before that point, they did go on a 5-game win streak, which included them notching up their 3,000th victory in franchise history, I believe.
Yep, it was.
Yes.
Had a couple of OT winners, a shootout victory. You had Moritz Seider with an OT winner in one of those, and now
Seider got hurt in the Nashville game.
Yeah, which I really hate. I hope they really do something about that for some form of retaliation.
He was actually practicing today.
Yeah, but I think in terms of sending a message, they need to get them back next game. That's just me, though. I'm just granted that may sound too 90s of me.
Got a good point.
But they may sound 90s of me, but I think that's just from my standpoint of the identity of what I want my team to say. Hey, listen, we're not going to get knocked over. We're not going to get pushed around. It's called, okay, you hit us. Okay, we're going to get that ass back. So it's just going to come down to what happens when we see them play again. But before that, they had a great 5-game winning streak, as I mentioned. I mentioned the Seider OT winner. And also Lucas Raymond. Look at him now. He's a rookie, but now he's officially the team leader in points production in terms of his scoring and his assisting and general all-around effective and efficient use in whichever lineup he's in. He's been getting the most out of it, whether it be playing with the talent around him or taking advantage of the spots his coaches put him in. He's gotten the most out of it, and now he's leading the team, the whole team, in points. It's quite saying something when you have Dylan Larkin and Tyler Bertuzzi on your roster.
Yeah, Tyler Bertuzzi still in COVID protocol. So is Mark Stahl. Well, karma's a bitch, isn't it?
Guys, we do need to make mention Lucas Raymond did win NHL Rookie of the Month for November.
Yes, he did. Keep it up. He's going to be Rookie of the – well, he's going to have a Calder Cup to put in his trophy case.
Calder Trophy? Well,
trophy,
actually – this might sound like a stretch, but I think it's very realistic that all 3 Calder Trophy finalists could be Red Wings because you obviously got Lucas Raymond and you've got Seider as well.
Yeah.
But Alex Nedeljkovic is still eligible for Rookie of the Year.
Wow.
For December.
Yeah. Well,
now, granted, he hasn't looked quite as hot the past couple games. He has given up a total of 7 goals in his past 2 games, but the way he's been in terms of being that performer for that reliable goaltender for his team when they need it, something we haven't seen in quite a long while. I could see why he would be getting that consideration. And the fact that he's technically still a rookie, then yeah, that speaks for itself.
Way to point out those stats. All right, so those are Pistons and Red Wings. Now the What We've Learned segment, we have covered everything except for the MLB lockout. Tigers are not going to do anything or much, except they made a couple moves in the MLB, the MILB Rule 5 draft. You can check them out at Tigers on the Tigers PR Twitter handle at Detroit Tigers PR.
I think it's noteworthy that they were willing. It may have played a factor in their decision to sign Javi Baez over, say, Carlos Correa. Sure, the money was one part, but I think the fact that they wanted to get something done before the lockout happened probably influenced their decision to go with Baez.
Yeah, we've already graded that, didn't we?
Yeah, I believe we did. But yeah, I just remember to just to add on as a little post note, just in case I didn't bring it up last week.
Yeah, both Baez's and Correa's WAR values were over 11 at least. Correa's 12.5, Baez is like 11.1 or something like that. They're both pretty damn good.
Yeah, they're good players. It's just it comes down to there may be noticeable differences in
The strikeout rate
and certain key expectors, like that, for example.
Yeah. Frank pointed it out on the air. He strikes out too much, and not a very good guy in the clubhouse.
Right. So there's something to worry about.
Yes.
But again,
especially the whole double thumbs down in New York. But that's another topic for another time, fellas.
Right.
Yeah, and that's on AJ Hinch to fix. So what I've learned, win or lose, Michigan football had a hell of a run. They beat Ohio State, and they easily destroyed Iowa in the Big Ten championship game, and they have momentum going into the Georgia Orange Bowl game. Now, even if they don't win the national championship, and they've got tough teams to play, or at least one of them, you got to tip your cap to Jim Harbaugh and his new coaching staff, Josh Gaddis and Mike McDonald. They and the players have worked their tails off, physically and mentally. The Lions, they got their first win. Both the Big Ten championship and the Lions' first win were for the Oxford students that lost their lives due to the shooting, of course. But Red Wings and Pistons, same thing. Pistons have got to fix things, but the Red Wings, they've got to get the rest of their players vaccinated. And that Nashville game, that Nashville loss, which turned out to be ugly, was a message to Jeff Trashill. Think about that guy. That's what I've learned. Ed, you're next, and then we'll go to Frank. Ed, what did you learn?
In terms of what I learned, I think throughout this week's instance with the teams that we've covered was the prevalent theme of patience. I think there's a way to tie that in to each team. The patience that we have to see for the Tigers, for the Pistons and the Red Wings to develop amongst themselves with their rebuild processes. The patience that we saw in terms of grinding with the Lions all season long, and frankly all year long, because it would have been 364 days, almost exactly a year to the day since their last victory. First victory without Stafford, first victory for Goff without McVay, first victory for Dan Campbell. All that was a result of patience building and finally paying off. And in terms of patience building and finally paying off, what better example of what we saw Michigan do this season, do this year, with the circumstances, with the pressures, with the narratives that were all stacked up against them before the season to now. You had a 0.2% chance of doing, going to the playoff or winning your division, whatever the case it is. Now here you are, the number 2 ranked team in the nation, Big Ten champions. What Bo Schembechler once said is in fact still true. Those who stay will be champions. And from the players to the coaches and everyone in between, that is the perfect example of that quote paying off. Whatever happens against Georgia and potentially beyond is whatever. But for now, I am thankful that I have better memories of this than, say, for example, 2006 or 2016 or 2018. I was so young, I cannot have the proper memories of 1997. So knowing that I have this season of Michigan football, I'm going to cherish and hang on to that for as long as I possibly can, for as long as I can, and then some.
All right. Frank, caboose it. What did you learn? Yeah, I can hear you.
Sorry, guys. I had a little bit of technical difficulty, but what I've learned this week, I'm just going to kind of piggyback off what Ed said in terms of Michigan football. You've earned the right to enjoy this moment. Win the Big Ten for the first time in 17 years. Beating Ohio State. And whatever happens from this point forward in the playoffs, enjoy it. I'm not going to say you're going to beat Georgia. I'm not going to say you're going to lose to them. Whatever happens, happens. You put up with enough BS over these last few years, had some bad coaches, and a lot of narratives about how Harbaugh couldn't get it done. Well, he's taking steps towards getting it done. When he said, beat your rivals or die trying, that told me that he was taking it like his ass was in the jackpot. And so far, it's paid off. And he needs to keep that up for not just these two, this playoff game and maybe the next playoff game, but I think for the rest of his career in Michigan as well. You play that, it's going to be a fun ride. Enjoy it.
Yeah. Talk about motivating magic words from the head coach. So that's what we've learned. And before we go, this show is sponsored by the Vig It Sports mobile app where great fans cover. Use the hashtag GreatFansCover to support the app. Use the referral code STABLES with a capital S and the rest of the letters being lowercase, including the letter B in the middle as in billionaire for Stables Media when you sign up. It's available on the Apple App Store and Google Play. Download it now. Don't delay. Also, a shout out to Cali Tickets. Visit CaliTickets.com or call 877-225-8425 to purchase a ticket to attend one of their featured events. That's CaliTickets.com or 877-225-8425. Our next episode, to be determined, probably another Sunday, except Ed will be on a temporary hiatus. We will keep you posted. Ed, just enjoy your schedule, but keep us posted privately.
Will do, guys. Thank you.
Yep. And is it okay if I do a one-on-one interview with you later on at the end of the month to analyze the Michigan-Georgia game, Ed?
More than likely when the time approaches it, possibly.
Yep. Whenever you're available, just let me know. All right. So until then, for Ed Smith and Frank Vasner, I'm Taylor Phillips. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DT2Phillips with 2 L's. Follow Ed Smith on Twitter and Instagram at EdSmith313. And follow Frank Vasner on Twitter and Instagram at Frank_Vasner, VAJCNER. And follow our show on social media, Twitter and Instagram at Michigan_Truth, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast, and on Reddit, r/Michigan Sports Truth. Thanks very much for watching, listening, downloading, and sharing. And remember, the truth is out there. TTFN, ta-ta for now. Power the people. Hit them with a highway. Rest our case. Stay out of trouble and stay safe and stay warm.